Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon.
And I'm Amir.
Amir returns. And welcome to the Mustardcast, podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. As usual, we'll start with media we're consuming, and Amir, you can start again for the first time in like 3 episodes.
Well, it's not going to be much because I haven't really had internet for a minute. So I finished Brooklyn Nine-Nine and then started it again because it's great and I love it and it's my favorite show of all time. Then I started watching Burn Notice on Hulu, which is really good. I don't know if you ever seen or heard of Burn Notice. It is a really good show. I'm only a couple episodes in though, but it's about this spy named Michael Weston who gets quote unquote burned, which is basically like fired um from being a spy. But like when you get fired from being a spy, you don't get fired. They freeze all your assets, all your money, they drop your cover, they do everything. So he gets like just completely left like on his own devices in the middle of like a mission with some arms dealers in Nigeria or something. And then he escapes and winds up getting dumped into Miami. But because of all of his like assets and everything being frozen, he has no way out of Miami, which is where he was born and raised. So now his super nosy mom, his gambling addiction brother, or his gambling addicted brother, and like a trigger happy thief ex-girlfriend are all in Miami, and they're like his only hope of getting out of Miami and finding out who burned him so he can get back to being a spy. And it's really good. Also, the guy who plays Ash from Evil Dead is in it, and that's great. He's Michael's best friend in that, and he's like a former spy who's like informing on him to the FBI. It's a great show. That's really funny. And
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, yes, thank you. I don't remember what year it came out, but it came out kind of close to Casino Royale, and it looks very similar to Casino Royale. It's like the Bahama scenes in Casino Royale, like Miami looks very similar to that, and like the camera style and cinematography and everything. But it is a really good show, and I really like it. I also started watching Tokyo Revengers, and I got like 3 episodes in and got bored. Um, I'll probably finish it at some point, but that at some point is not anytime in the near future. I rewatched Batman like 9 million times because, of course, I did. Um, I finished the fourth Drone Files book, which is Summer Night, which it took me over a year to finish that book just because I stopped reading it, and then I was like, I didn't tell anybody on the podcast. I don't know if you told anybody on the podcast. I had COVID, so I was under quarantine, so like I really didn't have anything to do. So I was like, I'm just gonna finish this book. I finished it, and it was really good. And now I'm reading a book called The Monstrumologist, which is like it feels like the closest book I've ever read to like Bloodborne. It's really good. It's about like a doctor who's like a monstrumologist, which is like he studies monsters and stuff like that. And the main character is his 12-year-old assistant, which sounds like the setup to like a children's book, but it is not a children's book at all. Like I'm listening to the audiobook, so like 9 minutes into the first chapter of the audiobook is like a graphic, very graphic, detailed autopsy, and then it gets worse from there. Um, so it is not a children's book. If you are a children, please do not read that book. But it is very good so far. I was about like
If you
halfway
are
through.
a children,
That was from some YouTube show. I don't remember what it was. It was like this show is not intended for children. If you are a children, f off. I don't remember what series that was, but I always loved that. Um, and now that I have everything back up and running, I have been playing actually not as many video games as I thought I was going to. The No Man's Sky Outlaw update came out a little bit ago, so I've been catching up on that. I played a little bit of Elden Ring, but not much. Played a little bit of Minecraft, and I'm downloading the Elder Scrolls Online because it was free on PlayStation Plus a while ago, and I got it. I never played it, but I was looking at some Elder Scrolls lore videos for like a while, and I can call myself an Elder Scrolls lore master, and I really want to play ESO. So that's taking forever to download though, which I think is hilarious because like the biggest game I own is No Man's Sky, but it has like the smallest file size. Like the base game is like 5 gigs or something like that. Like they really compress those files now. Um, Meanwhile, the Elder Scrolls Online is like 87.5 gigs. So it's just taking forever. I've been downloading game for like 2 days now. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, so I've been playing the shit out of Sleeping Dogs because Berlizzi started playing, I started watching him playing it, and I had already been playing it myself. But then after watching him play it, I really got back into it and just kept playing it. And it is so damn fun. I want a sequel so bad. Sleeping Dogs is ridiculously fun. It makes no sense how fun this game is. I need more. It's really good. Um, I watched all of Genndy Tartakovsky's Star Wars Clone Wars on Disney Plus. And it's still good. It's great. That second part, I feel like I hadn't seen the second half of that in a very long time. And the second part is, in my opinion, better than the first part. Even though I feel like that Anakin Asajj episode is one of the best. But yeah, that second part is really good. It's just a lot of Grievous being a much more competent version of himself, and rather than the one that runs away all the time. And Mace like piloted like a droid ship by pulling the cords. It was strange, but it was fun. Still watching Gravity Falls. I watch one episode every Saturday. um Gravity Falls is great. It's so good. It's very funny.
I rewatch Gravity Falls at least like once a month. So the fact that you're doing it like one episode every Saturday is like low key a little bit painful, but I'm gonna let that slide.
I've been watching one episode every Saturday. I've also been watching Spy Family, which a new episode was posted yesterday. I need to check that out. It's about a spy. It takes place in like a fictional
Wait,
version.
they made an anime?
Yeah, it takes place in like a fictional version of Europe.
I've been reading the manga for like the past like year and a half. I had no idea they made an anime.
Yeah, it's really good so far. I'm sitting here like, man, I'm so used to jumping into manga immediately after an anime ends that now I'm at the point that I'm liking it so much that even before the first season ends, I want to jump into the manga. But I'm gonna wait till the season's over before I jump into the manga. Speaking of which, I've been rereading Chainsaw Man. Have you still haven't checked it out, have you? You need to read Chainsaw Man. It's
I
real.
just started Berserk.
Berserk's good too. That's a good start. Are you reading it like digitally or did you buy the volume?
Yeah, I'm reading it digitally.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, if you end up purchasing it, you should probably just like get the deluxe version. But yeah, I'm finishing Stranger Things because I never went on my way to watch Stranger Things before. What happened was our teacher, Harris, had you were a year younger than me, so you weren't obviously in this classroom, but they had showed us Stranger Things one day when we just weren't doing anything for whatever reason, and we watched a couple episodes, and I had just never watched it after that, so I picked up at where essentially we left off that all the way back then when I was watching it in their class. And Stranger Things, it's really good. I see why people love it so much, and people are always talking about it. Naturally, I started doing that because season 4 is coming out soon, and then I was like, let me check out Stranger Things, and it's been real good so far. I'm at like the beginning of season 3 and episode 2. It's been real fun so far. Atlanta, still watching that. I'm 2 episodes behind. Episode was posted on Hulu Friday. It's every Friday. So I need to catch up on that. Halo, I'm gonna get so much more into that later, but Halo video games. I've been playing Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary with the Master Chief Collection on Xbox Game Pass, which is amazing. If you have an Xbox and you haven't used Game Pass, I don't know why. And if you don't have a console and you're thinking about getting one and you just want a lot of games to play immediately, Xbox is good for that. But if you just want good games and you don't mind paying for them all individually, PlayStation is better. But
I like how the first thing you said talking about PlayStation was if you want good games. That's like oh my god, I love that. Because I argue with some friends who have Xboxes and they're like, why don't you get an Xbox? I'm like, there's nothing I want to play that's on Xbox that's not on PlayStation except for Sea of Thieves. That's it.
Yeah. For me, it's Halo. Halo is literally the only, I don't play a lot of multiplayer games. The only multiplayer game I play is Halo Infinite online. That game is so damn fun. What is it? See, Fiesta Slayer is ridiculously fun. Fiesta is essentially just, and in regular just like Slayer is essentially team deathmatch. You always have the assault rifle and the pistol, and like weapons will spawn throughout the map, and you go, and that's how you get additional weapons. You don't make your own loadout. But in Slayer, every time you die and respawn, you have two different weapons, and Fiesta is really fun.
I don't know. Infinite's the only Halo I haven't played, but like all my favorite Halos are like previous gen. They're all on 360, and I still have my 360, and I still have all of those Halos. I don't know. I have like no reason to get a Xbox personally, but
Yeah. Well, you either got a PC or you're trying to build one, and once you get that, you got to play Infinite.
Yeah, I'm trying to build one, and that's like once I build my PC, I have no reason to get an Xbox at all because I can just get every single Xbox game as long as I have like a Windows processor.
And Halo Infinite multiplayer is free to play, so that's how I've been playing it. Because I'm definitely not a gold member because I don't play enough online games to subscribe to anything other than Game Pass to play single player games. But yeah, he has played Halo 2 a long time ago because we have Halo 2 because we had it on the original Xbox, but every Xbox console is backwards compatible. So he played that original Xbox version of Halo 2 on the 360 and probably the Xbox One. But he was literally just born. He was barely a year old when me and my younger brothers played through Halo 4, and he wasn't alive at all when me and my brothers played through the first two Halos. I and my other two brothers have never played Halo 3. So I'm excited to get to that point because then we'll be breaking new ground because that is literally the only Halo game I haven't played. Actually,
that's my favorite Halo.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's favorite Halos. I haven't played Halo 3 and I haven't played Halo 3 ODST. I've played 1, 2, Reach, and 4, and 5. I haven't played the entirety of the story mode of 5, but I've played the multiplayer. And obviously Infinite, I've played the entirety of the story. I'm working on trying to 100% it. But yeah, I'm playing Combat Evolved with him, and we got stuck on this one level where it got to the point where he was like, I also got in Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which he started playing, which their internet is so much better than mine because I was downloading, because before I gave it to him, I put the disc in my PS5 so I could download it. That way, when he comes over here, like it's already on the console and we can just pop the disc in and play it together. But it took like an hour, maybe hour and a half. For him, it took 30 minutes. Their internet's so much better than mine. It took 30 minutes because I was about to leave. I was like, this is probably gonna take like 2 hours. You got a PS4, your internet's probably the exact same as mine, but I realized that they pay for a better version of it. And yeah, it downloaded so much faster. So I stayed. I didn't get a chance to play. I just watched them play it before I left. And it looks fun. They changed the combat system is kind of very hack and slashy, very combo heavy. That looks very interesting when you're playing with a character with a lightsaber. But I realized he'd never seen any Star Wars movie. Well, I knew, and I forgot when I got the game. And then I was like, you know what? Before you play this game, we are going to watch A New Hope. I'm not about to let you play the New Hope level, a New Hope level on this game without watching the movie. And then I told him, when you beat the New Hope level, tell me I'm coming over and we're going to watch Empire Strikes Back. Then you can play the Empire Strikes Back level because I'm not going to let you spoil yourself. Even though he knows a lot of it already just through being on the internet, despite the fact that he's 10, he's always online. So he knows a lot of the major stuff, but I still want him to experience the movies before he plays the video game version of it. But yeah, I'm going to play through other Halos with him because all of them, except for 5, are on the Master Chief Collection. All right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, all the ones worth playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna play 5 because I just want to play all of them. And I've never played the entirety of 5's story mode.
5's multiplayer was fine. 5's story, I don't understand how you forget that Master Chief is the main character, but apparently they did. So
yeah, I think what they were doing was interesting. It was just flawed execution. But anyway, so I'm going to dedicate this whole current event section to just talking about Batman Unburied. Because the reason, even though you say you were ready, I said wait is because I wanted to finish episode 4. So Batman Unburied. First, we're going to start off with a quick spoiler-free review and kind of a summary of what the audio drama is about. So, and then I'll let you know when we're getting into spoilers, so you can talk freely. But Batman Unburied is an audio drama on Spotify where Bruce works as a forensic pathologist in the depths of Gotham City Hospital and analyzes bodies by putting himself in the shoes, not literally, like he's not dead man, but of the victims, and to try and gain as much information about the assailant as possible to aid the police. And it starts off with him performing an autopsy on a victim of a serial killer named a Harvester. So, just spoiler-free review. How you feeling about it?
It is easily. I'm a big podcast person, and I'm a big true crime person, and I'm a big Batman person. It is easily like a perfect combination of the three. It is so good.
It really is. I'm not a big true crime person, but I'm a big, me and you had this conversation before. I like fictional true crimes, like something that's framed like a true crime, but it's fake. And that's what this is. And I like that a lot. And I like how much we're seeing Bruce be a detective. Like most things outside of the comics, we don't really get to see Bruce or Batman just sit down and analyze things in detail in a very entertaining way that helps us see his process and actually understand what he's doing to figure things out and have us figure things out along with him. And I love that they're doing that with this podcast just through audio, which is really fun. But yeah, I'm loving it too. But there's not much we can say without spoiling it. So we're gonna jump into spoilers. If you haven't heard it, there are 4 episodes out right now as we're speaking on Sunday, May 15th. They release every Tuesday. It's been out for about a month. So yeah, go and they're 30 minutes, about 30 minutes each. The fourth one was like 41 minutes. But yeah, go listen to that and then come back here. But if you don't care about spoilers, we're spoiling it right now. So Harvester attacks Bruce, removes his pancreas. And this is where you find out his parents are alive. And his father is voiced by Lance Reddick, who is probably most famous for The Wire, but he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's a great actor. He has a very distinctive voice. You hear his voice, you immediately go, that's Lance Reddick. He also has a great name. And like, yeah, that was a very interesting twist. Like just him starting off with him as a doctor, like made me go, that makes sense. His father was a doctor. It makes a lot of sense. That's cool. I've never consumed a Batman story where Bruce was a doctor. So I thought that was very interesting. And then his parents being alive. That was even great. But then I felt like it was immediately ruined because let's have this conversation. Am I tripping and thinking that you watched it all, read it? I mean, listened to it all.
Yeah, I listened to it all.
Okay, so I'm not tripping and thinking that it's fake.
Yeah, no, it's all in his head.
I'm gonna be real, bro. Like, I hate that.
Oh my god,
I hate that because
I like it because I was almost sure.
Yeah, I could tell every time the bat noises happen, I was like, this isn't real. Especially when he was with the therapist. I was just like, this probably isn't real. His parents being alive, this is too much. This isn't real. Especially when the pearls broke. I was like, this is fake. And I was getting upset because I was like, bruh, I low-key prefer a version of this story where it isn't fake. His parents are alive and maybe they eventually die, sure. But we actually get to see a version of Batman where because at this point he's around the same in the fake thing that's happening. He's essentially the same age he would have been when he started being Batman, but his parents are alive and he's a doctor. And I found that interesting, and I would love to see something that uses that as the main kind of timeline and explores that more rather than making it a fake thing that's in his head because of some villain.
I gotta ask, did you listen to the trailer?
No, I didn't listen to the trailer.
Okay, because the trailer kind of spoils out. Not really like spoils it, but it kind of gives the illusion that it heavily alludes to the fact that not everything is as it seems.
Yeah, I prefer to have figured it out myself rather than have it spoiled. That would have sucked.
I wasn't sure whether or not it was a fake reality or whether or not this is an alternate universe. I had like a 50-50 thing in both. Like I wasn't entirely sure. I was pretty much 50-50 split until the bat noises, and when the bat noises, I was like, "Oh, this is fake for sure."
But yeah, I'm still enjoying it, and I can tell it's still going to be really, and it still is really good. I just would have preferred that had been the main story, that kind of fake universe that's in his mind. Um, but all the voice actors are doing great. Gina Rodriguez is playing Barbara Gordon. She does a fantastic Barbara Gordon. And I forget who's
I have
voicing.
to say, I love this Riddler. This is
I
like
was
my
gonna say
favorite version of the Riddler.
I couldn't find who's voicing him. I tried to look it up, but I saw it once and then I tried to look it up again and couldn't find it. But they're doing a fantastic job. This is a really good Riddler. Their voice just fits so well. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that's the Riddler. Like that's just the Riddler that I feel like I'm the voice that always pops in my head when I'm reading something.
This version of Riddler honestly kind of feels like a continuation of Paul Dano's Riddler with how, the performance itself, but like the actual characterization, he's such an asshole, and I love it. He's
Yeah.
such a sarcastic asshole. I love it. It's not even like you don't even feel like he's insane. You just feel like he's just like a regular, like just a regular jerk. Like you're just like he's a jackass. I love it.
Yeah, he's just a guy who feels like he's better than everybody. And I like that. I like that a lot. Um, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. But I want to pose a question, right? So I've just listened to it. I immediately went, man, I would love to either see this animated or as like a live action show on HBO Max with like a big budget. And here's my question. Not only would you want that, either one of those things, and which one would you want, but also either way, would should they have the characters keep the ethnicities of the actors or make them, the ethnicities they are in the comics? And for me, if it was live action, I would say yes, because I would want the exact same actors playing those characters. But if it was animated, you have more leeway. So I feel like I would want them to be the race that they are in the comics. But if it was live action, I would want them to be Black, Latino, whatever. A lot of the actors are like Gina Rodriguez playing Barbara Gordon's Latina, and the actors playing the Waynes are Black. The woman who voices Martha Wayne is actually the voice of Mal Medarda in Arcane. I'm gonna look up her name real quick. But yeah, go ahead. Let me hear your opinion.
It was actually funny that you mentioned that because I wasn't even thinking about a live action show or animated series because I know this is like a fictional scenario, but in my head, those both seem a little unrealistic for like a podcast or something. But what was immediately popping into my head when I was listening to it, I was like, man, I'd really like to see like a visual version of this. In my head, I was like, what if this got turned into a comic? Like, what if someone made a comic adaptation of this, or like someone over at DC made like a mini series for it? And I feel like that's probably the most likely scenario. But if I had to choose between animated or live action, I'd probably go with animated just because to me it's a lot easier to make the characters look cooler than it is on live action. Where we've been doing really well with like live action stuff nowadays with like costumes and stuff. But every single time I see something about a character adaptation for DC, all I can think about is Birds of Prey or like the Gotham series finale, and like I don't know if you saw the Gotham season, the
Oh, I
Gotham
saw it.
series finale.
Oh, I saw it. I watched the whole show.
It was the worst episode of the series. It was a very good series up until the end, and I don't know how they dropped the ball that hard. But that so personally, I would want it animated. If it
Me,
was animated,
I
I'm
think
not too.
that ending was weird.
That ending was so weird.
But anyway, yeah, I agree that I would prefer to see it animated. And the woman who voices Martha Wayne is Tokes. I'm gonna try to pronounce her last name. Alagun Doye. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I would love to see this animated, but I would also like to see a version of the story where his parents are alive. And he like for a second, I thought the story was going the route of instead of his parents dying, Alfred died, and like the harvester, like to me, it felt like the harvester like killed Alfred, and he was like trying to hunt down the harvester because the harvester killed Alfred. That's what it felt like to me at first, and I kind of want that version of the story. It's in my mind. I'm gonna write that version of the story. Okay, so into comics. I've only read 3 comics within the last few weeks. And that is Nubia, Radiant Black, and Hardware. So, in Nubia issue 6 was a tie-in. It's the final issue of Nubia and the Amazons, and it was part 2 of a of Trial of the Amazons, a Wonder Fam event that I'm not going to read because I was going to read it, but then I heard it was bad, so I'm not going to read it anymore. Um,
I only read the ending of it, and it was very bad.
yeah, I will say, however, that Hippolyta dies, and now Nubia is the permanent queen of the Amazons. And that leads into Nubia Coronation Special, which was a special one shot where she's being coronated, of course, and it kind of goes through a bit of her life and her history, and ends with her officially being coronated. And she's getting a new series titled Nubia, Queen of the Amazons. That'll be out very soon, within a month or so, I believe. Radiant Black. So, in this issue of Radiant Black starts to get real aggressive when it comes to taking down criminals. So his friend, who was the previous Radiant Black before he had a building dropped on him, tells him like, "Hey, chill out. Don't let the power go to your head." And then Radiant Black still goes out and does something very aggressive. And then the kind of like the entity that kind of gives him the radiant powers is trying to get in contact with his former holder, because he kind of wants him back, because the new one he doesn't like very much. Hardware, the Milestone comic, we learned that the AI in Hardware's suit is based off of his father. And what happened in this comic is that was his, I'm trying to remember the name of the dude who's like the main villain, Edwin Alva. He essentially sent like some type of missile to a facility that Hardware was hiding out at, and then the person he was with, Asher Sim, who also hates Alva, sent him to America so he could help his friend who was being attacked by like a metahuman that can like make clones of themselves. And then he figured out that Edwin has some type of backdoor into his suit, and then he shut down his suit, and then the comic ended with him about to be jumped by a bunch of clones. But there's one issue left. Hardware has easily been the best Milestone comic so far. The other two have been all right. Icon and Rocket got better as it went on, but it still wasn't great. And Static has good art, but the story is moving really fast. Whereas Hardware, I feel like is pacing itself really well, and the art is really good. But you got any comic stuff before we move on?
Whoops. I read Death of the Justice League, which was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Knowing DC, I really thought they were going to do something insanely disrespectful. They kind of did, because Ollie literally he got like MKX fatality by Doomsday. So, and he's the only Justice League member that really died, like truly died. He might not be dead. He might just be in like, because I mean, I've seen Green Arrow tank worse than that, but like, I'm pretty sure his spine is like snapping like 3 different places.
Yeah, he's getting like a special one shot, so he's probably still, around. Like the rest of them essentially got sent to like some type of like dream world.
And yeah, they all got sent to a dream world that Barry got sent into in the beginning of Infinite Crisis. They're all basically got sent to the same thing. So like they're not officially dead, except for Black Canary and Black Adam, which I'm very happy they didn't kill Dinah, because I thought they were going to, and I was going to be very mad because everybody knows that I love Dinah. But no, she's still alive. Black Adam's still alive. The rest of the Justice League is technically still alive, and Green Arrow is the only one that got disrespected, because of course he did. I've also been reading Shadow War, which is great. Oh my God. It is probably my favorite event from DC in the past maybe 10 years. I think Batman events are getting better, because I really like Fear State too. But most DC events recently, especially recently, have been like really, really bad. But Shadow War has been awesome, and I love it so much. And oh my God, Bruce and Talia, they're probably not actually getting back together, but they kissed, and I was very happy about that, because I like them as a couple. I don't know whether or not I like them better than Bruce and Selena. I really don't. But I like the fact that at the very least there was something. It was like the first thing in like 10 years between Bruce and Talia, except for Damian, obviously. But I was very happy about that. And it's been a pretty good event so far. Respawn, if you guys don't know who Respawn is, he was like the mystery character in the League of Lazarus tournament from Robin. It turns out that he is yet another Damian clone. He's half Talia al Ghul, half Deathstroke DNA. I don't know why they keep cloning Damien. I feel like a new clone of Damien comes out like once every 5 years. But yeah, apparently that's who Respawn is. But I don't know. It seems like Respawn might be here to stay. I get a really lingering feeling that he's probably going to die at the end of this event, which is going to spiral into the next Deathstroke story. But Shadow War's been really, really good so far. What else? I've been reading one last thing. Oh, I read the new Superman Son of Kal-El issue. Actually, no, because I think the new one just released. I read the one before that. That's like one of the only ongoing series I've like actually been keeping up with. That and Nightwing are pretty much the only two, but I haven't caught up with Nightwing yet.
Is that
I'm
the
missing
one?
like two Nightwing.
Is that the one where they introduced Dreamer into the main continuity?
No, I think that's the newest one.
That's what I'm asking. Is that the newest one?
Yeah, I think that is the newest one. That's the one I haven't read yet.
Because I've been waiting for that one to come out because that's the only issue that I'm interested in because I just want to read some stuff about Dreamer.
It's a really good series. Like you should actually read it. It's really good. It's really good.
I don't care about John Kent, but
that's actually sad.
Moving on TV and film. I'm going to try to pronounce this name. Nkuti Gatwa will be playing the new Doctor in the next season of Doctor Who. He plays Eric in Sex Education on Netflix, which is a really good show that people should watch. And he's a Black man. And a lot of people, of course, are up in arms like, how is this Black man playing the Doctor? Even though the Doctor can be anyone. It's very strange. There's been a trailer release for Netflix's Resident Evil series. It premieres July 14th, and the trailer was good. It looks interesting. Your girl, Ella Balinska, is playing one of Wesker's daughters in the show, and Wesker is being played by Lance Reddick, the person we were just talking about, who voices Thomas Wayne in Batman Unburied. So I know at least he will be a good Wesker because he's a great actor. So like based on the trailer at the very least, it looks like the Netflix show low-key has a bigger budget than the movie that came out last fall, which is ridiculous. And I really want them to lean into campy horror. And when I thought about that, I immediately went, you know who would make a really good live action Resident Evil movie? Sam Raimi would make a great live action Resident Evil movie. I feel like he would do wonders, or someone should try to mimic his style or something, because I feel like that would make, like, that combination would make for a great Resident Evil movie. But yeah, this show is kind of framing Raccoon City as like this paradise that Umbrella Corps built, and people are moving there to having a great place to live. And Wesker is working for Umbrella Corps, of course, but in this he seems like he's more of a scientist. And despite the fact that he's playing Wesker, he feels more like, I forget the name of the scientist like that, like turns into a giant monster in the Resident Evil 2, but he feels more like that character than he does Wesker. But we'll see. I'm very interested in it. I love Resident Evil. And I just want there to be a good live action version of it. And I hope that this is like the first good one. And then one day we get a proper Resident Evil 1 movie that is just an adaptation of the first game. But speaking of video game adaptations, Halo. Good God, Halo. So you weren't here last time. Last episode of Halo, actually the episode before the last episode, was actually pretty good. It focused entirely on Chief and the Spartans and the UNSC, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then immediately the next episode focused exclusively on Kwan Ha, and I hate her. Not the actress, the character. And what I really like when I go to Twitter and see people talking about how much they dislike the character, they make it very clear. A lot of people, at the very least I've seen, make it very clear, like, the actress is fine. She's doing good with what she has, but the writing isn't great, and the character they're trying to push on us, we don't care about. But people are being very respectful to the actress, and I'm happy for that. But the character of Kwan Ha sucks bad, and here's why. I don't care. This is a show called Halo, where the main character is Master Chief, and it's based off a first-person shooter. I'm here to see giant people in exosuits kill aliens, and I want a little bit of like political stuff with the UNSC. I don't care about Kwan Ha, but I do think that there is a way to frame Kwan Ha's story that would make her more interesting if they just didn't stray so far from essentially the way the story of the games. And here's my idea. All right. So in the games, spoiler alert for the games and the show. Um, Spartan 2s were created to squash human rebellion in a rebellion called the Insurrection. And that would have been such an easy way to tie Kwan Ha's story with Chiefs, because he's a Spartan too. He was made to literally kill other humans. So having them cross each other in that respect would have been very interesting. And I think in the show, he killed her mom. It would have been more interesting if we saw that, and then we would understand why she hates him, and we'd be like, okay, I'm interested in this character now, because we just watched the character that we do love from the games do something very horrible, which is actually stuff that he's done in the story of the games, but not actually in the games. Like, this is stuff that's been talked about in like the novels and stuff outside of the games. But like, he's killed tons of humans for the sake of the UNSC. And I feel like if they framed it like that, we would care so much more about Kwan Ha. So I have an idea for an alternate version of how they could have done things, and it's essentially this: it would focus on the rebellion and Kwan Ha and fighting against the UNSC, right? And eventually they would send in Spartans, and Spartans would be seen as like these monsters that just run through all of these people, because that's why they were built, to just be better, stronger, and easily squash the rebellion. And there is in canon a point where the Spartans are, including Chief and his team, are at essentially captured not captured, but they're like, I think their armors are like shut down. When their armor shut down, they essentially just can't move because it's really heavy, and it's also an exosuit, and it makes them, even though they're already really strong, they get even stronger with the armor. And then they're almost essentially killed by the rebels. But then there was a secret fifth Spartan who came in and saves the day, and we get to see that and see Kwan Ha get close to like getting revenge for her mother's death. And then eventually, what unites them is the Covenant's attack, which is what happens in the games. The rebels are forced to work with the UNSC because they now have a greater threat to deal with. And that's when we finally switch over to Master Chief's point of view and the Spartans, and we see more of the UNSC, and we learn and we garner a lot of sympathy for Master Chief, who is meant to who at first looks like a villain because he's just murdering a bunch of rebels. But now he's the big hero, and we learn that he was a child soldier who was indoctrinated and forced into this, and he literally knows nothing but being a soldier. And we start to be like, okay, it's kind of like not even his fault that he did all these things. He's just been doing this his entire life. He knows nothing else. I just feel like there's so many nuanced ways to go about this story, and me, not a professional writer, very easily just came up with a much more interesting story off the top of my head with the knowledge of the lore that I have. And it's, Amir, why don't we make stuff? Are you still there? Because I've been talking for a long time.
I'm still here. I had considerably less to say about Halo.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, it's weird. They could make a good story because there's a lot of good story to tell. And what a lot of people, they try to use the excuse, and I'm sure you've heard it before with other like adaptations and stuff that you've watched, where people will get upset when you're upset that it's not like the source material. And then people will be like, oh yeah, well, there has to be changes. It can't be one for one. And it's like, yeah, no shit. But there's a difference between changes made because those changes need to be made because you're translating a game to a movie, on top of the restrictions that come with budget and the fact that it's live action rather than being animated where you can do whatever you want. Outside of, like, there's a difference between those changes and straight up writing a completely different story, which is what happens every single time. It's not a story that's changed because it has to be, because it's a movie. Sorry if you hear that bird in the background, my window's open. But they just changed the whole story, and I hate it. They don't ever have to do that. They decide to do that. They essentially just use these IPs as a skin to throw over a story that they want to tell that has nothing to do with the story that we want to see, the story that it's supposed to be based off of. But yeah. In this last episode, have you seen any memes from the show?
Only a couple,
Okay.
but
In this last
I've
episode,
also only seen the first episode of the show. So like,
yeah, I know you don't care, so you don't care if I just tell you what happened, right?
no,
Yeah, so
because I'm not gonna watch it.
yeah, in this last episode, Master Chief lost his virginity.
I'm sorry, what?
Let me tell you how it happened. So there's a prisoner of war, a human, which this is already something that was really stupid. I gave them a benefit of doubt for so long, but the more I learned about it, the more I hated it. The Covenant hate humans. They want to murder them all, but they're working with a human. But the only reason they're working with the human is because the human can give them access to the Halo, right? Even though in reality, I don't think they should be working with a human at all. That's just not how the Covenant works. But I'll give them a little bit of leeway there. But she essentially is sent by the Covenant to kind of get access to this device that they have that will give them help them get the location of the Halo ring. And her and Chief have this weird connection because they both touch the artifact that she's trying to gain access to find the Halo for the Covenant. And for some reason, that weird connection turns romantic and then sexual. And mind you, she's a prisoner of war. And Master Chief just goes into her very lavish cell, her living quarters, and then they just have sex. And it's strange and it's weird. And Cortana just watches. Cortana is just like in the corner with a blank, dead stare on her face. And they zoom in and she's just watching. And it's so weird. I don't know why they did this.
I don't understand how anyone can defend that show.
And look, so many people. I literally said the tweet that said, "I don't understand how somebody can say that you're wrong for being upset that this adaptation isn't anything like the thing that's adapting," because people are constantly saying that. Like the example I just gave earlier of it just being a skin. Like, how are people be like, you're upset because it's not the exact same? I'm upset because it's nothing like what it's adapting, which is stupid. I hate it, but I'm still watching it. I have to see it through, my boy. I'm not watching season 2. I know that much. Like, I will have to hear glowing reviews. Like, people will have to say like it is a significant upgrade of the first season to get me to watch it. Like, they really will have to, because I'm not watching that second season otherwise. And I don't understand why they greenlit a second season before the show aired. Did they really think that this was so good that they're like, oh, we gotta get a second season before it airs? It's that good. It's not. It's not. But I'm gonna wrap up by saying this. For some reason, for a lot of Halo fans, they want the live action adaptation to be canon, which I think is very weird. Why does Halo specifically? Actually, I know why, but I still want to phrase the question of why does Halo specifically have to be the one live action adaptation that needs to be canon? That has never been a precedent. That has never been a thing. Like, these types of adaptations have never been canon, and they don't need to be. And really, they shouldn't be. They should be able to try and follow the story as closely as they can, but have the freedom of not being canon, therefore being able to make changes that are necessary or that they just want to make to tell a good story. I don't think they should be canon. But the reason a lot of Halo fans feel this way is because whenever a Halo movie was in the works, it was always being people were always saying, the people working on the movie were always saying it was going to be canon. So now whenever something live action Halo was made, fans are expecting it to be canon, but I think that they shouldn't, and I don't think that it should be, unless it's going to be a story about like the ODSTs or something like that. I think that could be interesting, canonical story where you explore the ODSTs, the soldiers that aren't, Spartans. That could be interesting. But otherwise, It's unnecessary. It doesn't need to be canon. That's all I have to say about the Halo series. Yeah. Moon Knight. Have you finished it?
Yeah, I finished Moonlight.
Cool. Let's talk about that. Man, I feel like it's just another. It's more proof that their episode format doesn't give them nearly enough time to tell a complete story. Do you feel that way as well?
Not really. I feel like Moon Knight. I'll say I feel like the finale was rushed. I feel like up to the finale it was fine. I feel like the finale was rushed.
If they
I
had
feel like it was that way
one
for
more,
WandaVision as well. I didn't really get that with Loki or Hawkeye or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it has been that way to me for WandaVision and for Moon Knight.
yeah, for
Like the last
Loki,
episode just felt very out of place.
Loki for me was the complete opposite. Like I'm pretty sure you like Loki, right?
That's my favorite Marvel Disney Plus show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my least favorite Marvel Disney Plus show. Like me, you have very differing opinions of Loki, and for me, it was the complete opposite of having too little time. And I feel like Loki didn't utilize its time well enough and wasted its time a lot. Whereas with literally every single one of the other shows, I feel like by the time you get to the very last episode, things are being rushed. And if they had just one more episode, like initially I told you I wished Falcon Winter Soldier was a movie, and then I changed my mind. I was like, no, it needed to be longer because that's a tough one because Falcon Winter Soldier was the one Marvel show like that was filmed at like the height of the pandemic, so they came across a lot of troubles with the production because of that. So it's much more understandable why that one is that way. Whereas the ones afterwards is a little bit like the pandemic was still happening, but it was lessening, and it's more a matter of them being restricted by the 6 episodes more so than them being held up by the pandemic. So I just feel like at a certain point they gotta. I would say I think that 8 episodes would be a sweet spot. Just 2 more episodes. I feel like I think Hawkeye should have had a whole episode where me and you talked about it. You didn't know about it until I said it. Like Hawkeye, there were deleted scenes that were about Hawkeye's backstory, Clint Barton's backstory. And I think we should have had a whole episode about Clint Barton's backstory. And we should have had a whole episode about why Kingpin is there and showing us more about Kingpin and MCU and a little bit more about Echo and her father. And I thought they should have done that too. Like I feel like you give all of these shows just 2 more episodes, just two, and the stories will just be much more succinct and feel much more well-rounded and feel like they will be concluded well, you know. For Moon Knight, I think there were 2 things that we absolutely needed that we didn't get that made some things fall really, really flat. I think we should have had an episode instead of a really short flashback where we just see the aftermath of what happened when Layla Dads died and Mark becomes Moon Knight. I think we should have had a whole flashback episode where we see why Mark was in Egypt. We get to see his CO. We get to see the fallout and his CO shoot him and kill all the prisoners, and then see him become Moon Knight at the very end. I think that we should have had a whole episode for that. Or we should have half the episode be that, and then the next half of the episode be him meeting Layla, and just learning more about Layla, learning more about Layla's dad, and therefore making the whole story about Layla's dad more impactful because I didn't care. They kept harping on it, but I just didn't care because I didn't know who he was. I didn't really know enough about Layla to care that she was sad about her father. I just feel like 1 or 2 more episodes would make these shows so much better. Also, the formula it's starting to weigh on me. It's been weighing on me for a while, but the shows, there's only been what 5 of them so far, and their formula is already starting to get tiring on me. Not just the 6 episode limit, but also the fact that every time at the end of the show they have this big CGI fight, and I just feel like Moon Knight didn't need to have that. I also feel like we don't get enough. We in this first season, I hope this changes in the second season because I think they're making a second season, or at least it feels like they are. If not that, a movie. That we should have gotten so much more. Moon Knight just beating the shit out of goons, hand-to-hand combat, no CG. You feel that way, right? We didn't get enough of that.
That's my biggest complaint is that this entire thing felt more like Bleed than it did like Moon Knight,
It was
because
too like
it was way too
magical.
supernatural and
It
way
was
too
too
superpowered.
supernatural. That's the word I was looking for. It was way too
Like
super.
by far, like Moon Knight, all of the worst Moon Knight stories, all the worst rated Moon Knight stories are all the supernatural ones. All the best rated
So
Moon
hear
Knight
me out.
stories are all these street level ones. Like,
So hear me out. I wish that this was more street level, especially having read some Moon Knight comics. Like halfway through the season, I had read some Moon Knight comics and was like, man, this is so different from the show. I don't mind that they were supernatural. I think that there should have been a better balance. Um, I feel like you told me once that a lot of the Moon Knight comic, like from run to run, Moon Knight comics tend to be pretty drastically different. So I feel like even just
yeah,
having,
it's up until like the past like 20 years have been more consistent, but like before that, you kind of felt like you're reading a completely different series every single time.
I feel like maybe depending on how many seasons the show gets, maybe like a third season, they could have been like leaned into the supernatural side, and that could have been cool. Like after we already saw him be the grounded version for a while, I think that could have been interesting. But to start off with this big, like very what was the word you used? Supernatural story, I felt was strange for the character, and it doesn't very accurately depict who the character has been for the last 20 years.
This this version, I feel like the characterization of Mark Spector was the only accurate personality. Just off the jump, Mark Spector. I like Steven in this show, but Steven is very different in the comics.
Yeah, I like
Steven
him
is
too.
not the British one in the comics. Like I was a little confused because I was like, where's Jake? Jake is the British one. I don't know what I'm watching right now. I was a little confused.
And now
But
Jake's like Latino.
yeah, Jake is Latino, which I have no problem with. I'm also Latino, but like that to me was just like a really weird change that didn't need to happen. I was just like honestly, they should have made Steven Latino and like, but kept the because the thing, Stephen Grant is a billionaire. He's the quote unquote Bruce Wayne like persona, but like still very different. Because I don't know why people keep making Moon Knight comparisons to Batman because they're very different characters. But um, he's if he had a Bruce Wayne persona, this would be his quote unquote Bruce Wayne persona. But now he's this really sweet guy who works at a museum gift shop and is obsessed with Egyptian mythology. And I was just like, huh? What? Okay. Um, no, but Mark's characterization was pretty accurate. After that, it just feels like a completely different character. Uh I still don't know why they felt the need to make his suit into essentially the symbiote suit. Like he literally kind of like I didn't want to say glided, he flew. Like he
Yeah,
gained
no,
altitude.
that's the thing about them leaning so heavily into the spiritual side is that, like, with Khonshu's help, Moon Knight can basically do anything. Like, I feel like every time Khonshu decides to step in and use his power, Moon Knight can do anything. He like turned back the stars. He just made Mark straight up fly. Like, what can't Khonshu make him do? He also gave him like regeneration so strong that he can get stabbed by a bunch of spears and just stand up and break them and kill all the people that were stabbing him. Like, what?
Yeah, no, honestly, with Khonshu's help, Moon Knight did more than Khonshu did. Like all Khonshu did, like the most powerful thing Khonshu did by himself was like become like the super giant god thing, like literally a Power Rangers fight. I didn't think Marvel would ever get to that level, but apparently they did.
Here's the thing.
Um,
It makes sense. Okay, they're comic book characters, and I love Power Rangers, but it was very strange.
I knew you were gonna like that, but I hate Power Rangers, and so
Here's the
that
thing,
was
though. I didn't like it though. I didn't like their fight, the giant kaiju fight, even though I like me some kaijus. I just thought it was out of
I do
place.
like Kaiju's. I will admit I do like Kaiju's. I
I
still hate
just
Power Rangers.
I felt like it was out of place.
It was so out of place. The whole show was out of place. If you look like
It
it,
was. Bro.
if you look at it like his publication history and his story, the entire show was just
out of place.
Here's
Like,
the thing:
I don't.
anybody who watches this show and never read a Moon Knight comic like myself and go and reads a Moon Knight comic, like if I at least had an idea of who Moon Knight was. Anybody who knew nothing about Moon Knight and jumps into comics and like, this is absolutely nothing like the show. I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah, my friend Mason, he not the Mason you know, but my friend Mason, he was like, oh, I'd never read a Moon Knight comic, and so I wanted to go read a Moon Knight comic. And I thought I was reading the wrong comic, and I was like, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand why, because I thought I was watching the wrong show. Honestly, it was very confusing.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of they're doing better than the comics do with kind of like explaining the fact that there are several different afterlives. And I do like the idea of there being the Egyptian gods that can imbue people with their like powers. And Layla is being like imbued with the power of Tawaret, and she becomes like a, from what I understand, from what people have said, a gender bent version of the Scarlet Scarab. And was it like Disney Plus's Twitter had released something where they officially called her Scarlet Scarab. And yeah, it's also very cool to have a character from who actually is a native of a country and has the powers of the the gods from that country, because I feel like that never happens. There's always just some American dude who comes and gets the Egyptian powers and he's the superhero rather than actually being an Egyptian person. But yeah, that's interesting. She basically is just like Falcon but probably with regeneration, which I don't know, man. I feel like they should have changed her powers a bit, because every time I see her, I'm just going like, but Falcon though, or Captain America as he is now. We already got the dude with the wings.
I saw a video on YouTube a while ago, a couple months ago, that I feel like you would love, where it basically talks about how the MCU characters are far over designed. And now, like, especially nowadays, they all have like their costumes all have a very same-ish look and feel. And the more that I watch MCU stuff, especially new stuff that comes out, the more that I see that and the more that I understand what he's talking about.
Yeah, but they're slowly starting to have more and more like comic accurate designs. Like, you haven't seen Doctor Strange yet, have you?
I haven't seen Doctor Strange. I haven't
So
had the chance.
I'm not gonna spoil it, but me, you
I've already heard most of the spoilers.
Well, I'm still not gonna spoil you, and it sucks that you got spoiled because
I purposely look for the spoilers.
you suck. I forgot that you don't care about spoilers.
I don't care about spoilers for the most part.
But we'll talk about it when you see it. But what is it? Dang, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Like Doctor Strange's costume in that in Multiverse of Madness is really good. It's much closer to his comic book design, but still not the exact same. And the thing with the MCU is that they're slowly trying to be more in line with the comics in a lot of ways. And you see that with Spider-Man's costume change at the end of No Way Home and Doctor Strange's in this movie. And I feel like they're and Scarlet Witch now actually has a Scarlet Witch costume. Like they're coming more and more into like not being afraid to make the goofy costumes, because at the end of the day, these are comic book characters. Like just let them look like comic book characters. Same thing with Thor. Even though me and you hated on it, like it looks much better with actually me and you never talked about Thor together because you weren't on last time. But there was a trailer and we saw his costume. It doesn't have the helmet and it doesn't have the yellow arms, and it looks so much better for it. But it also is unapologetically a comic book costume. It is so bright and colorful and very different. And I feel like they're starting to move in that direction when it comes to costume design. Granted, also there's two concept artists who have been designing the costumes for a long time, and that's why they look samey. And that's Ryan Meandering and Andy. I cannot remember his last name, but I'll look it up. But yeah, that's why they're samey. There's two people that are in charge of like conceptualization in Marvel that have been making these costumes for a long time, for the past 10 years.
They should hire way more people as far as concept art goes.
Yeah, they need more diversity.
I don't like if they have had two people for what, like almost 20 years at this point. Like,
well, those two people are the heads of like the concept design.
Oh, I misheard what you said. I thought you were saying they were the only two people
Oh,
working
no.
on costumes the
They
entire. I'm
aren't.
like, no wonder they all look the same.
They aren't the only two, but they are like the big ones. Like they're both. I think Ryan Meandering is like the director of like conceptualization in the MCU. And Andy is like just below him. And there's definitely other concept artists below them, some freelance, some who just officially work for Marvel, and that design costumes for them. But their design styles are all based on those two artists. So it basically feels like they're the only two artists because every artist that works with them essentially mimics their style, and that needs to change. They need
I was
people.
just, I still feel like that needs to be diversified by far.
Okay, so here we're gonna review Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and today I have a special guest. I wanted to just call
Oh,
you Shania, but I just realized I haven't called you by your real name in a very long time. You also, we haven't had a conversation where you hear my voice and I'm not the only person hearing your voice in a very long time because I'm usually we're either talking through Discord or through the Twitch your Twitch streams chat.
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, go ahead and introduce
It has
yourself.
been a long while. Hello, hi. I'm Queen Philomeena, or just Philomeena for short. You can find me on Twitch and literally everywhere else, but yeah,
Yeah, I'll have
mostly Queen Philomeena.
I'll have your ad on the screen so that you can check that out. So yeah, we're gonna be reviewing Doctor Strange. We're gonna start off spoiler free, just give our spoiler free reviews. But first, I'm gonna start off with just a tad bit of summary of what like the premise of the movie is. Essentially, America Chavez is a person with the metahuman ability to like jump through dimensions and universes, and there is some type of creature that's coming after her to steal her abilities, and Doctor Strange has to help her stop that creature. Um, I liked it. I think that it started off really slow, and that I wasn't enjoying it for the first 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. But then once a certain thing happens, I'll just say once he gets captured, I'll put it that way. Once he gets captured by the people you know I'm talking about, then it gets much more exciting. And from that point on, it is all up from there, in my personal opinion. So without spoiling it, how did you like it?
Um, without spoiling it,
Yeah.
uh, so without spoiling it, I'd say they did a really good job at introducing our main focus for the story and who America is. They definitely uh, did a good job at portraying her personality type and getting us to like her very early on. But yeah, it did kind of start off kind of slow and dry, as you were saying. So yeah.
But yeah,
I
it's
do
gonna
think they did really well with that. I really do like the character. She's great. And everything afterwards was just amazing.
yeah, it's gonna be hard to have this conversation without spoiling it. So we're just gonna jump straight into spoilers right now. So spoiler alert for anybody listening. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. Or if you don't care about spoilers, we're about to spoil it. So spoiler alert. So yeah, I think with movies can afford to start a little slower or weaker and build up to something great versus like a TV show where I feel like a TV show since it's more of a time commitment because there are several episodes, sometimes hours long. Um, you want to know that the show's good from the get go, and that then maybe it could slow down and then build back up after that. But with a movie, you want a movie. I feel like you can afford to take your time because when you watch a movie at this point, you're committed to sitting down and finishing the whole thing. Usually, I'm not the type of person who, no matter how bad a movie is, even if I want to, I'll stick through it and watch the entire movie. Versus a TV show, if I get a couple episodes in and I'm not liking it, I'm just gonna stop watching it, depending on the show. So I feel like
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's definitely how it is with movies. They can definitely turn the audience's opinion of the movie really quickly. Well, after a long run of a boring movie, they could definitely change it with what they do at the end.
like Avengers Endgame is my third favorite Marvel movie. I'm just looking at my list of I have like a ranking list of all the movies, and it's number three. And I was sitting there trying to think like, should it be number three because it starts off really slow, but then I'm like, even though it starts off slow, it's still entertaining from the get go. But then also, that ending, I feel like makes up for every slow moment in that movie. That ending is so good that it makes up for it's worth the build up, and that's why it's my third favorite MCU movie. And Doctor Strange, I put at number 11. It's below Shang Chi.
Wait, first Doctor Strange?
No, this one. The
This
first
one, the new one.
yeah,
Okay,
first
yeah.
Doctor Strange
Okay.
is much lower. It's not the lowest, but it's I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, but something's got to go above it. um, but yeah, I feel like the Wanda as the main villain reveal wasn't done very well. I would have preferred that they strung us along a little longer, because for me, I felt like it was kind of obvious, and I feel like for a lot of people it might have been obvious, but I don't think it was that way for everyone. So I think they could have afforded to maybe have her work with Doctor Strange to fight a monster, and then have the twist happen when she's like within the vicinity of America Chavez, and then she slips up and makes a mistake, like she did in the orchard, where she makes a mistake and says the wrong thing, and he catches on. I feel like they could have drug that out. Like those first 20 minutes would have been much more interesting. I feel like if they did that, because I feel like them revealing her immediately kind of just sapped away all the tension. It was just gone. It's like, okay, now she's coming. That's it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. As a person who didn't watch WandaVision or any of the other shows that came out, I personally didn't know what was happening, and I didn't know that she was a villain until she basically told us. But yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's something else I should mention. If you haven't seen WandaVision, you're going to be missing a substantial part of the story because they definitely can continue her story directly where WandaVision leaves off in this film. So if you haven't seen that movie, you're not like you said, you're not gonna know that you're not gonna assume she's the villain. Like I feel like people who have seen WandaVision did. And it also WandaVision is just good. It's a good show. You should check it out. It's probably
It definitely threw me for a loop, though. I was like, wait, what?
yeah. In my opinion,
What do you
WandaVision
mean?
is still the best MCU show. No, a lot of people like Loki. Loki is my least favorite. I felt like it had weird pacing, and it was very inconsistent with Loki's powers, and I hate that. But
No, I haven't watched it. I literally have to binge all of these so I can go rewatch the movie and try to understand.
yeah, it might give you a little bit more. You might see it differently after watching WandaVision.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but this is
Um,
also the first time
yeah.
one of the shows have had a big impact on the movies as well. So now the shows are starting to be more important because they're actually impacting what's happening in the films. But yeah, once we get to the point where he's captured by the Illuminati, everything's up. Um,
Oh yeah.
Everything is fantastic. So by nature of who the Illuminati are, there are certain characters I could guess would be there. Like Professor X was in the trailer. We heard his voice. We didn't see him, but we heard his voice. Everybody knew that was Patrick Stewart. Black Bolt is a part of the Illuminati, so I wasn't sure if they would do it because the Inhumans show was so bad that I'm surprised they brought back that actor for that role. He did a really good job in this movie though. But I had a feeling that he might come in. Mordo was basically confirmed already, and Maria Rambeau was someone that everybody had saw tiny glimpses of in the trailer, but it was super blurry and we weren't sure if it was her. Some people thought it was what's his name? Dude from Mission Impossible. I can't remember his name right now for some reason. But some other actor playing another version of Iron Man. But it ended up being her. But Mr. Fantastic, I also thought he was going to be in it, but I thought it was going to be Ian McGruffin, who played Mr. Fantastic in the live action Fantastic Four films from the early 2000s. But no, it was John Krasinski from The Office, who a lot of people have been fan casting as Mr. Fantastic for a long time, and his wife as the Invisible Woman, and it was very surprising. I expected to see Mr. Fantastic, but I did not expect to see him as Mr. Fantastic. But they probably did that as just a wink and a nod. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They probably just did it as a wink and a nod and a joke, and he probably won't be coming back as Mr. Fantastic. They'll probably hire someone else, but I thought that it was a cool Easter egg. It can't really.
Yeah.
It's not really an Easter egg when it's that overt. But yeah. But this is where the horror kicks in, because we haven't even talked about the fact that this is the same Sam Raimi directed movie. He directed the first three Spider-Man live action Spider-Man films, as well as Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and a horror movie called Dragon in Hell that I haven't seen, but I want to see because I really like Raimi's films. But I
Mhm.
really love Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. I love the Spider-Man trilogy. And this is the most Sam Raimi comic book movie he's ever made, even more so than the Spider-Man films. And you could definitely see that with the horror. A lot of Evil Dead vibes.
Yep.
I haven't seen the movie again. But I feel like the scariest shot is the one where she snaps Professor X's neck, right? And I hadn't seen,
Mhm.
like, all I knew was like her face looked different, but I couldn't remember what it looked like. I just remember it being scary. But I saw a screenshot that somebody posted online. I was like, and this was like when I was about to go to bed, and I saw it and I was like, this is creepy. I'm going to sleep. I'm cutting my phone off. Why did someone show me this? But it was very
Yeah,
creepy.
they did
And also,
implement a lot of horror elements, and I do enjoy that.
but also
But
the
oh
brutal
yeah.
murder was completely unexpected.
Oh my god.
When she made that, when Black Bolt's mouth disappeared and he blew up his head and it sunk in, that caught me completely off guard. Now, there's a lot of people talking about how this pushes the PG-13 rating, which I agree with, but there's a lot of people on the other side saying, "Oh, you guys are babies. You must have not grown up watching, a bunch of other type of movies that, because the PG-13 rating, like the way it exists today didn't really exist in like the 80s. There in the 80s there were a bunch of movies that should have been rated R that weren't rated R. So a bunch of people who lived through that time period and watched those type of films, we're talking about, oh, it's not that bad. And I agree. I literally grew up watching horror movies with my grandmother and my siblings. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but when you watch a Marvel movie, you don't expect to see Captain Carter get cut in half by a shield.
Yeah, that definitely
So
caught me off guard.
I get what people
Like,
are
I
saying.
think they were going for a shock value feel, like how we were watching The Boys. I think they were going for something like that.
Like they
The
definitely,
crazy random gore that you don't expect.
yeah, it's definitely random gore that I didn't expect. It was much more visceral than I expected it to ever be, and I liked it. I would like to see them push that a bit more with certain things. Um, but yeah, that was fun. What else do I have in my notes? Uh, I really like this in all of the movies up until Infinity War. Doctor Strange's magic tended to just be essentially like he was kind of like a Green Lantern. He was mostly just making weapons out of like orange light, and I was like, that's not a very interesting use of magic. But in this movie, he was always whenever he used magic, he always was summoning some type of like dimensional creature or something like that. And that music fight was really cool.
They're
Um,
really cool.
that was one of the
I have
coolest
a
uses of
feeling the
magic.
moment the first one thought about doing it, they all started thinking about doing
Yeah. The
it.
first time they did interesting stuff with Doctor Strange's magic was in Infinity War when he was fighting Thanos, and that was really cool. Um, and also when he like brung back the dead Doctor Strange, when he was
Oh
dreamwalking
my
to
god.
go and fight Wanda, and he used the I forget what they were called, but those shadow monsters to make a cape was dope. And I just want to see Doctor Strange do weird stuff like that with his magic more,
Mm-hmm.
because we mostly just see him make glowing energy stuff or like make or send people to like the mirror dimension. And but I'm glad that we see him doing more stuff than that. But
Yeah.
let's talk about America Chavez. She was all right. She was cool. So there's been some controversy that surrounding the casting, in that people are saying that the character of America Chavez is supposed to be um, darker skinned, and this is a case of people hiring a lighter skinned Latino woman to play a darker skinned Latina character, and a lot of Latino people don't like that, and
I mean,
I can't um, fault them for that. I would feel the same if they hired a light skinned person to play Black Panther. Like he's not light skinned. Like I get that. Like if I wouldn't want to see that done with a black person, why would I want to see that done with a Latina person?
as a personally as a Latina myself, I didn't see a problem with it. I did see a lot of the discourse online about her being cast because she's lighter skinned, but like I feel like it's a lot better than them casting a white woman than casting
I mean,
a
but
lighter skinned.
yeah, in this day and age, they wouldn't have casted a
Latino.
white woman. I don't think that's a concern. But I think that it would have been much different if she was a black character. If she was a black character and they hired a light skinned person, the outrage would have been just as much, if not more. And I feel like it's
Yeah.
definitely a problem that, and I feel like we've moved past the point in society where we feel like whenever a black character is casted for a movie, they need to be light. Like the like when you hire a character that's dark skinned for a movie, they don't have to. You don't have to make them lighter, and I think that is a problem that needs to be fixed. This has nothing to do with the actress. It's the casting director, who I can't remember her name, but it's a white woman, as you can assume. And they need more people of color making those casting decisions because this white woman clearly made a choice that a lot of people are like, why did you do that? That's so unnecessary. There are plenty of dark skinned Latina actors out there. But
I
also her
think
character.
maybe she might have been going more for the age range of America in here. Like I get it that it is kind of disappointing for the Latinx community to see her lighter, but I do think that they were going for more of the age range and someone that could really put the personality that they wanted for America out instead of
See,
just casting them for their skin color.
I feel like that's a poor excuse because when it comes to casting certain races for a role, the skin color does matter, but also her personality as it is currently isn't what it's like as her comic character is even when her character was first introduced. So it could be the writers, of course, and when they cast her, she acted more like the character, but the writing itself didn't have her. It didn't give her enough to do. Like in this movie as a whole, America Chavez was just a plot device. She wasn't
Yeah.
really doing much until the very end, where Doctor Strange was like, "You have control of your powers or whatever," and it was kind of cheesy, but it was all right. But she, honestly, I don't know if she needed to be in this movie. Like I feel like they could have done this movie in a lot of different ways, and she could have been a part of a different movie where she was utilized better, or they could have just utilized her better in this movie as a whole. I just feel like there's a lot of, there's a lot of flaws with that character specifically in this film, um, and they could have
I
done
do
much
feel
better.
like they may make a standalone movie for her soon, maybe. Because I
So
think this is supposed to be maybe her introduction, like kind of like her origin story, but just a short little version of it.
yes, it's for sure her origin story. So in the comics, she's a part of a team called the Young Avengers, and a couple of the Young Avengers have been introduced the um in the movies. Like for example, the two sons of um, the Scarlet Witch are part of the Young Avengers, but they're much older when they were part of the Young Avengers, and they could easily find some reason to age those characters up to be closer to the age of America, who the actress is 16, and I assume the character is probably around the same age. So they could easily have those two characters be aged up, at which one of them has the same powers as their mother, and the other one has the powers of their uncle. He has super speed. And then another member that's been introduced in the MCU, but is much older within the MCU than the character than America is Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, who is her character in the universe is 22 years old, but she's supposed to be best friends with America, but now she's significantly older than America, so that's a weird dynamic. I wonder what they're doing with that. And
Yeah.
there's a couple other members of that team that haven't been introduced yet, but I would imagine will be introduced at some point soon. Maybe one of them might be introduced in a spacefaring movie like Guardians or something because he's an alien, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see more of her character and see them utilize her much better. But I didn't enjoy the way they used her in this movie very much. They also in certain countries, I believe the film was banned because they didn't want to cut out the scene of showing her parents because her parents are gay. Um, Even though it lasted like 2 minutes. Which
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should have cut it out. I'm glad they didn't cave in to those other countries. What I'm saying is that if this has happened with a couple movies where the representation is so small that it's almost insignificant. It's like, okay, I feel like you didn't even need to include that if it didn't matter. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was very weird.
I
That whole
kind of
scene was
agree. I
strange.
think the introduction of the moms was kind of too short and not really
I feel like
what we were looking for. Like, I feel like if they did a better scene at portraying her relationship with the moms and showing the moms actually having some kind of chemistry or something, I'd feel better. But it does feel like they just showed the moms and just got rid of them that fast.
yeah. I feel like it would have been cool if they had a flashback showing like her growing up or something on her planet. It would have been interesting to see what her planet was like and what her parents were like, and then you have the monster come or not the monster. She actually made a mistake and used her powers, and that's what sent her parents to a different universe. But like Doctor Strange said, there's a possibility her parents are still alive, and that she might go out there and find them, and then we'll get to see more of them. Which
I
would
think that might be what her standalone movie may be. Perhaps I think that might be the start of it because they're definitely trying to build that universe and that story so they can have more stuff to do with the characters.
yeah.
But I'm not sure if they'll go for that route or something completely different.
Yeah, so at the very end of the movie, in that like after credit scene, they showed that he got like a third eye, which I'm not completely sure what that means. The third eye for the other Strange that was in that world that got destroyed was that it was because he was using the Darkhold too much, and this Doctor Strange used the Darkhold once, so I'm interested to see what that means. But they also showed a character at the end of that who I forget the name of that character, but um she's a love interest of Doctor Strange's, I believe. Currently in the comics,
Oh yeah, I've
she's his
heard
wife, so that's probably
maybe
the
supposed
route
to
that
be
they're
his
going for.
wife.
Yeah, especially since he essentially just moved on from the character that Rachel McAdams plays. Since he's finally
Yeah.
moved on from her, it makes sense that they're like, okay, he's moved on. It's time for him to find someone else. But also, she's a cool character in her own right, so I'm interested to see um just learn more about that character because I don't know really much about her. Currently in the comics, she is the Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor Strange is dead. So yeah, I want to learn more about her.
Mhm.
But let's wrap this up because we're closing in on around 22 minutes.
Mhm.
So yeah, Philomeena, you can follow her on Twitch. What's your Twitch?
Queen Philomena with KW. A lot of people get confused about that.
Well, all right, let's get on to Red.
And
So on to video games. So Bethesda games delayed. Well, Bethesda delayed pretty much all their games to the first half of 2023. Um, I already thought Redfall was coming out next year, but apparently it was supposed to be coming out this year, but it got delayed to 2023, and so has Starfield, which was supposed to come out this fall. And I am really, really, really interested in Starfield. They released these like this kind of like behind the scenes kind of like documentary thing on Bethesda's YouTube channel that I watch every time they release new episodes. There are 3 episodes so far, and just watching it and listening to how they talk about it, and from what I know about Skyrim and how this is the evolution of that, but in space, I'm so excited for this game, like a lot. Are you interested in Starfield, or have you been hearing anything about it?
I am passively interested in it. I have no Xbox, so I cannot play it yet until I get a PC. Uh, but I am passively interested in it, not so much actively interested in it. I love Skyrim. It's still my favorite RPG of all time. Um, but the only other Bethesda RPG, actually, no, I'll say this. I've played a lot of Bethesda RPGs. I've played Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, and I have played Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4, and the only one that I actually liked out of any of those was Skyrim. So I'm not too sure how I'm going to feel about Starfield, so I haven't really been paying much attention to it other than the announcement, and I also haven't seen any like trailers for it except for the announcement trailer. I don't even know if they're releasing trailers for it.
Yeah, there's only been CGI trailers, and but this June is gonna be like the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, and I um almost sure they're gonna show off some Starfield gameplay, despite the fact that it's still over half a year off. So they're most likely still gonna show the gameplay just to keep people excited since they delayed it. Hopefully we see some Redfall gameplay too, because I remember you were like, despite the fact that it's made by Arcane, you weren't too excited about it because it was just a CGI trailer and you didn't really care about the stuff in the CGI trailer, even though I thought it was really cool. Hopefully they show some gameplay and it looks real good, and it'll be a game that I won't promise to play with you because every time I say that it never happens. Uh, but yeah, they also finally announced the release date for the Dead Space remake, and it is January 27th, 2024. So yeah, that'll be fun. Last but not least, something you can talk about a lot. Gotham Knights. They gave us some gameplay, some like 13-minute gameplay video. Um and Traversal looks interesting, to say the least. I think it looks fun. I don't mind the super arcadiness of it, but you aren't the biggest fan of it.
I'm not. I feel like it takes me out of the game a little bit. Or it takes me out of what's the word? It takes me out of it. I'm not as immersed when I see Nightwing literally Fortnite gliding into combat, or Red Hood literally stepping on reality. Was that was a big shock. Um
Yeah,
I
when
that
I saw
one
that, I
that
forgot to
took me
mention
aback
this.
for sure.
I forgot to mention this, but him stepping on reality made me go. If they made like a Young Avengers game, like that would be cool for America Chavez. Like if like in a game like where
She can
she's,
also fly though.
I mean, yeah, but stepping on
I
reality
would just
just looks
rather
cool.
fly.
I actually didn't know she could fly, but stepping on reality just seems cooler.
I don't know. Personally, I'd rather fly than step on reality. Oh, that reminds me. Okay, can you cut like this next, like the next 3 minutes? Just can you cut that out? Oh my god. Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah,
you're gonna have to cut that out. But you just reminded me of that, and I was like, I
yeah,
had to tell him.
yeah. But
Um,
the combat looks not only slow and clunky, but specifically with Nightwing, despite the fact that of all the characters, he looks the most and fun to play to me. I think that there needs to be more enemies per encounter because Nightwing has to leap like a whole city block just to attack someone in that game. He has to do the biggest somersault in the world just to reach an enemy to hit them because there are only like three enemies in each encounter we saw in this gameplay trailer showcase. And I feel like if it was like at least 10, he wouldn't have to jump so far. Like even in
that was one of my biggest complaints when it came to the Arkham games, because they did something very similar with Batman, where he would like roll like 30 blocks down the street to go hit somebody,
especially in
and then
night.
like yeah, especially at night. He would roll like 5 blocks down the street, kick somebody's kneecap out, and then like side flip back another 5 blocks to keep fighting the other people. I'm like, what?
Yeah, but for
And it
me,
feels like they kept that apparently.
yeah, for me in the
I
Arkham
don't know why.
games, I feel like it worked better and I didn't notice it as much because one, there were way more enemies, and because the combat was much faster. In this game, the combat is a lot slower. So when he has to jump a whole city block, you notice it because he's moving so slow. And also Red Hood's
Personally,
gameplay just looks weird.
oh god,
Red Hood's gameplay just looks weird.
I agree with that. I don't really plan on using Red Hood all too much anyway.
Me neither, unless I'm forced to.
But you won't be, according to the devs. You won't be forced to play as any one character for any one mission.
Fantastic.
But I don't know. I plan on streaming the whole game because hopefully I'll have like my whole streaming setup done by then. And the way I plan on doing it is I'm just gonna like randomly like choose one of the 4 characters per 4 missions. So like one mission I'll be playing as Nightwing, the next mission I'll be playing as another character, next mission I'll be playing as another character, etc., etc. But any single time I do any sort of side content, I will only be playing as Nightwing or Robin. I don't really care all too much to play as Batgirl, and nothing about Red Hood's gameplay is
I want to
interesting.
play. I'm gonna definitely play each one of them once, but I'm mostly probably gonna play Nightwing, and then second probably Robin, and then Batgirl. But Nightwing, I mean Red Hood, I'm probably just not gonna play Red Hood.
He just looks really weird doing like gun fu. Like you're not John Wick, bro. Just put them down. Fight. Like either fight or shoot. I don't understand.
It was also announced that it will be next gen exclusive, so we won't have to worry about the console not being able to handle a potential increase in enemies, because I feel like that might be something that they add is like increase the amount of enemies you fight per encounter, which I just feel like they need to do. But you don't like Nightwing's glider because it reminds you of Fortnite, but I like it a lot because it reminds me of Moon Knight, and I think it's cool. And it makes
If
me
it
really
worked,
want a Nightwing game. I mean, a Moon Knight game. I do want a Nightwing game, but I want a Moon Knight game where he has that glider.
if it worked more like an actual glider in real life, I wouldn't really have a
Yeah, I
problem
feel
with it.
like
Like where his feet were
yeah,
back, but this man was literally hanging by his wristicles. Like I don't understand why
I feel like a
that
lot
wasn't
of
the
people
choice.
wouldn't care as much if one the glider kind of felt like it didn't materialize out of nowhere like in Fortnite. Like if it instead flew down, so it looked like it was always following him and it came down and he got in it and like you said, it looked like he was in like an actual like hang glider. Then I feel like people wouldn't be as upset about it. But because it looks so much like something from Fortnite, like this looks like whenever Nightwing is in Fortnite, if he isn't already in there, this is what his glider's gonna look like.
They will probably do a Gotham Knights crossover event because they always do crossover events with everything when it comes out. Now I guarantee you there will be this exact Nightwing skin and that exact lighter skin. I promise you.
But yeah, I didn't care about this game before. Loki, all the stuff that you don't like and a lot of people don't like made me more interested in the game. But even then, I'm still not convinced that to even purchase it at all. So, you know,
I'm
whenever,
still planning on getting the collector's edition pre-order because it was my most anticipated game of the year. It's still my most anticipated game of the year. Collector's edition pre-order is $300, so that's something. But
yeah, I'm definitely much more interested in the Suicide Squad game. But I need to see more from both of them. Well, I'm sold on the Suicide Squad game. I'm getting that, but I still want to see more from both of them. But for Gotham Knights, I need to see more before I even think about it. Either gameplay or whenever the game comes out, some reviews.
that's actually a little bit wild to me because I'm not whatsoever convinced about Suicide Squad. Like, I don't plan on getting that game unless it's free. Like, I haven't seen anything that's convinced me about it so far.
Everything about it's convinced me. It feels like a like Sunset Overdrive and like what's that game called, Saints Row 3. And I feel like that's exactly what those characters should be in. Like I really want a Harley Quinn solo game that's just like Saints Row 3. This goofy, violent, like GTA style game. But that's all we got. You know, I'm Dijon. You can find my ads below me. That's Amir. You can find his ad below
You can
him.
find my ads somewhere on screen.
And
I'll leave that up to your discretion.
the Muskrat's app below that. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Peace.